The Krail Dominion's dropships tore through Jakarta's smog-choked skies, their hulls screeching like damned souls. Maria Lopez shielded the orphans with her body as the ceiling caved in. The children's screams were cut short by the hiss of neural stun gas, a Krail specialty designed to paralyze, not kill. Her MMA-honed muscles twitching against the toxin, a clawed hand the size of a trash can lid seized her by the waist. Maria's vision swam as she was hauled into the air, the orphanage shrinking below. She caught a glimpse of the Krail soldier, 8 feet tall, obsidian scales oozing venom, faceted eyes glowing like dying stars. Maria screamed at the Krail soldier, "Let me go," driving her elbow into its wrist joint. The scales cut her skin, but the beast flinched. It laughed, a sound like grinding bones. "Feisty, the Overlord will savor your pain." Maria's captors dragged her to a harvest barge, a floating abattoir where humans were sorted like livestock. She gagged at the stench, blood, bile, and the ozone tang of Krail tech. A holographic collar snapped around her throat, projecting her value in jagged runes. Pain tolerance, 9.7 out of 10. Aggression, tier exceeded. "Prime stock," purred a Krail surgeon, its syringe fingers probing Maria's spine. "You'll last weeks in the pit." They threw her into a cage with other captives. Kaito Nakamura, a Marine whose left arm ended in a cauterized stump. Lin Tran, a 14-year-old hacker whose nails were crusted with dried blood, not hers. Vlad Ivanov, a Spetsnaz operative, humming Kalinka as he sharpened a shiv from a ration tin. Vlad said, "Welcome to hell," tossing Maria the shiv. Pro tip, aim for the eyes. Scales are softer there. The barge shuddered as it ascended toward the Krail mothership, World Breaker. Maria gripped the bars, watching Earth shrink. A blue-green gem swarmed by locusts. "We'll come back," she swore, "or die trying." The arena stank of copper and alien musk. Maria's first opponent was a Lorcan bloodworm, a serpentine horror with teeth like fractured mirrors. The Krail crowd chittered, their bioluminescent scales rippling with anticipation. "Kill it or be devoured," boomed Overlord Xerath's voice. Maria fought naked, her only weapon a shard of Lorcan chitin from a previous victim. The worm lunged. She sidestepped, driving the shard into its gills. Acidic blood sprayed her chest, burning like hellfire. The crowd roared. "Boring!" Xerath hissed. "Activate the vexation field." The arena floor electrified, forcing Maria to dance on blistering feet. The worm thrashed, blinded by pain. She seized its tail, ripped a fang loose, and stabbed its brainstem. Silence. Then the Krail began to chant, "Deathworlder, Deathworlder." Xerath's mandibles twitched. "Put her in the nightmare cell. Let's see how she fares against companionship." They paired Maria with Garath, a hulking Tervoran gladiator. His species had gone extinct in the pit last cycle. "Kill each other," the warden commanded. "The survivor eats today." Garath charged, his claws aimed at Maria's throat. She ducked, sweeping his legs. They grappled, rolling in the filth. "I won't kill you," Maria grunted. Garath froze. "Why?" His voice was a graveled rasp. She headbutted him hard for the cameras, whispered, "Because we're breaking out. Help me, and you'll taste Krail blood." The Tervoran's lips peeled back in a fanged grin. He lunged again, a convincing Biao Yen, and Maria slit his throat with a dulled shiv. The warden tossed her a moldy protein block. Garath winked as she ate. Allies, she realized, come in all species. Xerath grew obsessed with Maria's defiance. He pitted her against human prisoners, hoping to break her spirit. Her first match, a scrawny engineer named Elijah Carter, trembling in the sand. I can't fight you," he stammered. Maria dislocated her own thumb, slipped the shackles, and snapped a warden's neck with her thighs. "Run! Find Vlad and Kaito." Elijah stared. "What's the plan?" She tossed him the dead warden's shock baton. "Weaponize everything." The Krael learned the hard way that day. Give humans a spark, and they'll burn your empire to ash. The nightmare cell was a labyrinth of despair, its walls slick with the ichor of countless species. Maria Lopez, now a scarred veteran of the pit, crouched in the shadows, her one good eye scanning for patrols. The Krael had underestimated her again. They thought her broken after weeks of torture, but every lash, every shock collar jolt had only sharpened her resolve. "They're coming," whispered Kaito Nakamura, his voice barely audible over the hum of the prison's force fields. The former Marine had fashioned a crude prosthetic from scavenged Krael tech, its clawed fingers twitching with barely restrained fury. Maria nodded, her fingers tracing the glyph she'd carved into the wall. "Try harder." It had become a rallying cry for the human prisoners, a reminder that the Krael's cruelty was nothing compared to the fire burning in their veins. The plan was simple: steal a ship, escape the mothership, and take the fight to the Krael. Simple, but suicidal. Dr. Elijah Carter, the trembling engineer Maria had spared in the pit, had become the linchpin of their rebellion. His hands, once soft from years of lab work, were now calloused and stained with alien grease. "The Krael's black hole drives are powered by quantum singularities," he explained, his voice low as he etched equations into the dirt. "But the pilots, they go mad. The void speaks to them." Maria raised an eyebrow. "And we're supposed to fly this thing?" Elijah grinned, a flicker of defiance in his eyes. "Humans are different. We've spent millennia staring into the abyss. We're used to its whispers." Kaito snorted. "Speak for yourself, Doc. I'd rather punch the abyss in the face." The plan was audacious. Hijack a Krael fighter, jury-rig its systems, and use the black hole drive to escape. But first, they needed to disable the prison's security grid. The Krael wardens never saw it coming. Maria led the charge, her body a weapon honed by weeks of brutal combat. She moved like a shadow, her shiv finding the gaps in the Krael's armor with surgical precision. Kaito followed close behind, his prosthetic claw tearing through reinforced doors like paper. Lin Tran, the teenage hacker, had reprogrammed the prison's surveillance drones to play Thunderstruck as they advanced. The Krael's comms were flooded with static, their orders drowned out by the relentless beat of AC/DC. "They're panicking," Lin crowed, her fingers flying over a stolen datapad. "I've locked down the East Wing. We've got 5 minutes before they override it." Maria didn't waste time. She slammed her shiv into a warden's eye socket, yanked it free, and tossed it to Vlad. The Spetsnaz operative caught it midair, his grin feral as he plunged it into another guard's throat. "For Mother Russia!" he bellowed, his voice echoing through the corridors. The Krael's response was swift and brutal. Elite void blades, telepathic assassins clad in night steel, descended on the rebels, their minds a cacophony of psychic screams. Maria gritted her teeth as the void blade's whispers clawed at her mind. "You are nothing. You will die here." She laughed, loud and defiant. "Heard that one before, Lagartos." Lin's drones swarmed the void blades, their speakers blasting a chaotic mix of K-pop and heavy metal. The assassins writhed, their psychic focus shattered by the sheer noise of human creativity. "Move," Maria barked, leading the charge toward the hangar. The Krael's hangar was a cathedral of death, its walls lined with sleek fighters and towering war mechs. Maria's breath caught as she saw the prize, a Void Fang-class interceptor its black hole drive humming with barely contained power. "That's our ticket out of here," Elijah said, his voice trembling with excitement. But the Krail weren't about to let their prisoners escape. A squad of elite guards blocked their path, their plasma rifles humming with lethal intent. Maria didn't hesitate. She charged, her shiv gleaming in the dim light. Kaito and Vlad followed, their roars echoing through the hangar. The fight was brutal and chaotic. Maria disarmed a guard with a spinning kick, snatched his rifle, and fired a burst of plasma into the ceiling. The resulting explosion sent debris raining down, scattering the Krail forces. "Elijah, get to the ship!" she shouted, ducking behind a crate as plasma bolts sizzled past her head. The engineer didn't need to be told twice. He sprinted toward the interceptor, his hands flying over the control panel. "I need 5 minutes to bypass the security protocols," he called. "You've got 3, Maria replied, driving her shiv into a guard's throat. Kaito and Vlad held the line, their bodies a blur of motion. The Spetsnaz operative had fashioned a makeshift flamethrower from a welding torch and a canister of Krail fuel. He unleashed a torrent of fire, forcing the guards to retreat. "Burn in hell, Svoloki," he roared, his laughter mingling with the screams of his enemies. Elijah's fingers danced over the interceptor's controls, his mind racing as he bypassed layer after layer of Krail security. The black hole drive hummed louder, its power vibrating through the ship's hull. "Almost there," he muttered, sweat dripping from his brow. The void blades returned, their psychic screams tearing at his mind. "You cannot escape. The void will consume you." Elijah clenched his teeth, his hands trembling as he entered the final command sequence. "I've spent my whole life staring into the abyss," he whispered. "You think I'm scared of a little darkness?" The interceptor's engines roared to life, the black hole drive flaring with blinding light. Maria and the others scrambled aboard, their bodies battered but unbroken. "Punch it!" Maria ordered, slamming the hatch shut. Elijah didn't need to be told twice. He slammed the throttle forward, the interceptor shooting out of the hangar like a bullet. The Krail's mothership receded behind them, its obsidian hull bristling with weapons. But they were too late. The event horizon, as Elijah had christened the stolen ship, was already tearing through the fabric of reality, its black hole drive screaming like a banshee. Maria leaned back in her seat, a grin spreading across her face. Next stop, Earth. The event horizon streaked through the void, its black hole drive leaving a trail of distorted starlight in its wake. Inside the cockpit, Maria Lopez leaned over Elijah's shoulder, her one good eye scanning the readouts. "They're following us," Kaito growled, his prosthetic claw tapping the radar display. A swarm of Krail fighters had launched from the mothership, their sleek obsidian hulls glinting like shards of broken glass. "Of course they are," Maria said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "We just stole their pride and joy. They're not going to let us go without a fight." Elijah's hands flew over the controls, his face pale but determined. "The black hole drive is stable for now. But if we push it too hard, we risk tearing a hole in space-time." Maria grinned. "So let's push it." The Krail fighters closed in, their plasma cannons glowing with deadly intent. Overlord Zirath's voice crackled over the comms, his mandibles clicking with rage. "You think you can escape, Deathworlder? You are nothing but prey." Maria leaned into the mic, her voice calm and mocking. "Funny. Last I checked, the prey doesn't steal the hunter's ship. How's that working out for you, Lagarto?" Zirath's response was a wordless snarl, followed by a barrage of plasma fire. The event horizon shuddered as the shots impacted its shields, the force throwing the crew against their harnesses. "Shields at 60%, Elijah shouted, his fingers dancing over the console. "Evasive maneuvers," Maria barked, gripping the armrests as the ship spun and twisted through the void. Kaito manned the weapons station, his prosthetic claw slamming buttons with brutal efficiency. "Eat this, you scaly bastards," he roared, unleashing a volley of plasma missiles. The Krail fighters scattered, their formations breaking under the onslaught. One ship wasn't fast enough. It erupted in a fiery explosion, its debris scattering like shrapnel. "One down," Kaito said, his grin feral. Plenty more where that came from. The Krail weren't done yet. A massive dreadnought emerged from the shadows, its hull bristling with weapons. The Worldbreaker, Zirath's flagship, loomed like a predator ready to strike. "We can't take that thing head-on," Elijah said, his voice tight with fear. "Then we don't," Maria replied, her mind racing. "We use the black hole drive, tear a hole in space-time, and get the hell out of here." Elijah's eyes widened. "That's insane. We could end up anywhere, or anywhen." Maria's grin was all teeth. "Exactly." The Event Horizon's engines roared as Elijah pushed the black hole drive to its limits. The ship shuddered, its hull groaning under the strain. The Krail fighters closed in, their plasma cannons glowing brighter. "Hold on!" Elijah shouted, slamming the final command into the console. The Event Horizon shot forward, its black hole drive flaring with blinding light. Space itself seemed to warp and twist around the ship, the stars stretching into streaks of light. The Krail fighters hesitated, their pilots unsure how to respond. Zirath's voice crackled over the comms, his tone a mix of rage and disbelief. "What are you doing, Deathworlder? You'll tear the galaxy apart." Maria leaned into the mic, her voice calm and mocking. "Then you'd better catch us, Lagarto, because if we go down, we're taking you with us." The Event Horizon emerged from the jump on the edge of a dying star, its hull scorched and smoking. The crew staggered to their feet, their bodies battered but unbroken. "We made it," Elijah said, his voice trembling with relief. Maria grinned, her one good eye gleaming with triumph. "Told you we would." But the victory was short-lived. The Krail weren't about to let their prize slip away. The Worldbreaker emerged from the jump, its hull scarred but intact. "They're persistent, I'll give them that," Kaito said, his prosthetic claw flexing. "Then let's give them something to remember us by," Maria replied, her voice cold and determined. The Event Horizon hung in the shadow of a dying star, its hull scorched and battered but still intact. Maria Lopez stood in the cockpit, her one good eye fixed on the Worldbreaker as it emerged from the jump. The Krail flagship loomed like a predator, its obsidian hull bristling with weapons. "They're not giving up," Kaito growled, his prosthetic claw flexing as he manned the weapons station. "Good," Maria replied, her voice cold and steady. "Let's give them a fight they'll never forget." The crew of the Event Horizon was battered but unbroken. Elijah Carter, the trembling engineer who had become their unlikely savior, worked furiously at the console, his fingers flying over the controls. Lin Tran, the teenage hacker, had rigged the ship's systems to overload, creating a makeshift EMP pulse. Vlad Ivanov, the Spetsnaz operative, was busy jury-rigging a flamethrower from a welding torch and a canister of Krail fuel. "We're outgunned and outnumbered," Elijah said, his voice tight with fear. "But we've got one thing they don't." Maria grinned. "What's that?" "Human ingenuity," Elijah replied, his eyes gleaming with determination. The Worldbreaker opened fire, its plasma cannons glowing with deadly intent. The event horizon shuddered as the shots impacted its shields, the force throwing the crew against their harnesses. "Shields at 40%, Elijah shouted, his fingers dancing over the console. "Evasive maneuvers," Maria barked, gripping the armrests as the ship spun and twisted through the void. Kaito manned the weapons station, his prosthetic claw slamming buttons with brutal efficiency. "Eat this, you scaly bastards!" he roared, unleashing a volley of plasma missiles. The Krail fighters scattered, their formations breaking under the onslaught. One ship wasn't fast enough. It erupted in a fiery explosion, its debris scattering like shrapnel. "One down," Kaito said, his grin feral. Plenty more where that came from. But the Krail weren't done yet. The Worldbreaker's hangar doors opened, releasing a swarm of void blades, telepathic assassins clad in night steel. "Incoming!" Lynn shouted, her fingers flying over the console. "I've locked onto their signals, but they're jamming our comms." Maria's mind raced. The void blades were deadly, their psychic screams capable of driving even the strongest minds to madness. But she had faced worse in the pit. "Elijah, get us closer to the star," she ordered. "We'll use the heat to fry their systems." Elijah didn't hesitate. He slammed the throttle forward, the event horizon shooting toward the dying star. The heat was intense, the ship's hull glowing red as it entered the star's corona. The void blades followed, their sleek forms shimmering in the heat. But they weren't prepared for the sheer audacity of Maria's plan. "Now!" she shouted. Lynn activated the EMP pulse, the energy wave rippling through the void. The void blade systems overloaded, their psychic screams cut short as they were consumed by the star's fiery embrace. The Worldbreaker was relentless, its plasma cannons glowing brighter as it closed in on the event horizon. Zirath's voice crackled over the comms, his tone a mix of rage and disbelief. "You cannot win, Deathworlder. Surrender, and I will make your death quick." Maria leaned into the mic, her voice calm and mocking. "Sorry, Lagarto. We're not the surrendering type." She turned to Elijah, her one good eye gleaming with determination. "It's time. Activate the black hole drive." Elijah's hands trembled as he entered the final command sequence. The event horizon's engines roared, the black hole drive flaring with blinding light. "Hold on!" he shouted, slamming the throttle forward. The ship shot forward, its hull groaning under the strain. The Worldbreaker hesitated, its pilots unsure how to respond. "What are they doing?" Zirath hissed, his mandibles clicking with rage. The event horizon's black hole drive reached critical mass, the fabric of space-time tearing apart around it. The Worldbreaker was caught in the gravitational wake, its hull buckling under the strain. "They're insane!" Zirath screamed, his voice filled with panic. Maria leaned back in her seat, a grin spreading across her face. "Welcome to the edge of madness, Lagarto." The event horizon hung in the void, its black hole drive humming like a caged beast. The Worldbreaker loomed in the distance, its obsidian hull scarred but still formidable. Overlord Zirath's voice crackled over the comms, his tone a mix of rage and desperation. "You cannot escape, Deathworlder. The void will consume you." Maria Lopez leaned back in her seat, her one good eye fixed on the Krail flagship. "Elijah, how's the drive looking?" The engineer's hands trembled as he adjusted the controls. "Stable, for now, but if we push it any further, we risk tearing a hole in space-time." Maria grinned. "Then let's push it." The event horizon. Its black hole drive flared to life, its energy rippling through the void. The ship shuddered, its hull groaning under the strain. The crew braced themselves as the fabric of space-time began to warp around them. "Hold on!" Elijah shouted, slamming the throttle forward. The ship shot forward, its engines screaming as it tore through the void. The Worldbreaker hesitated, its pilots unsure how to respond. The event horizon streaked toward Earth, its black hole drive bleeding radiation like a dying star. Behind it, the Worldbreaker loomed, its shadow swallowing entire continents as it entered orbit. Overlord Xyrath's voice thundered across the planet, amplified by 1,000 hijacked broadcast towers. "Bo, humans, your defiance ends now." Maria Lopez stood in the cockpit, her scars glowing in the crimson light of emergency alarms. Below, Earth's cities burned. Jakarta, a smoldering crater. New York, a graveyard of shattered glass. But from the ashes, humanity's answer rose. A fleet of scavenged warships, retrofitted mining rigs, and jury-rigged drones, their hulls painted with the grinning skull of the Deathworlder uprising. "Signal the fleet," Maria ordered, her voice raw. "We hit them where it hurts." The Krail's arrogance had blinded them. Their reactors, cooled by Earth's stolen oceans, pulsed like glowing hearts beneath the Worldbreaker's armored belly. Anya Petrova's resistance fighters had spent months mapping the weak points, and now, orbiting Luna's corpse, the trap was set. "They'll target the event horizon first," Elijah warned, his hands shaking as he stabilized the black hole drive. "We're a beacon." Maria gripped his shoulder. "Then let's light the match." The event horizon dove toward the Worldbreaker, its drive screaming. Krail fighters swarmed, plasma fire carving glowing scars across its hull. Inside, the crew braced as alarms wailed. "Shields at 12%. Kaito barked, his prosthetic claw sparking from a near miss. "Hold course," Maria roared. The void whispered louder now, clawing at their minds. "You are dust. You are nothing." Maria laughed, blood trickling from her nose. "Tell that to Jakarta." Rico Martinez's voice crackled over the comms, his bionic arm whirring as he manned a stolen Krail artillery platform. "Ándale, cabrones. Time to party." The human fleet struck like a swarm of enraged hornets. Vlad Ivanov. His mining rigs slammed into the Worldbreaker's flank, their drills chewing through armor as they detonated fusion cores. Lintran's drone swarm descended, blasting Highway to Hell. Through every frequency, as they kamikazed into shield generators. Anya Petrova led the ground assault, her fighters riding repurposed subway trains, loaded with plasma charges, straight into the Krail's landing zones. But Xyrath wasn't finished. The Worldbreaker's singularity cannon charged, its maw glowing like a newborn star. "Direct hit incoming!" Elijah screamed. Maria didn't flinch. "Now, Ilara." Deep in the Siberian tundra, Dr. Ilara Voss slammed her fist onto a rusted control panel. "Do svidania, suka." The event horizon's black hole drive detonated. Reality tore. The Worldbreaker's cannon fired, but the beam curved backward, swallowed by the collapsing singularity. Xyrath's flagship shuddered, its hull buckling as the artificial black hole consumed its reactors. "Impossible," Xyrath howled, his holographic form flickering. You, animals." Maria's face filled every surviving screen on Earth, her one eye blazing. "Animals? Number, we're Deathworlders. And this?" She gestured to the dying star consuming his ship. "This is our RSVP." The singularity collapsed in a flash of silent light. When it faded, the Worldbreaker was gone, vaporized, along with half the Krail fleet. The survivors fled, their ships limping toward the edge of the system. Maria's crew floated in the crippled event horizon, their oxygen dwindling. Well, Kaito said, grinning through cracked lips. That was fun. A signal pinged, then another, then 100 more, human shuttles, scarred and smoking, rising from Earth's ruins to meet them. "Thought you could die without us, eh?" Anya Petrova's voice crackled over the comms. Maria leaned back, laughing until tears cut tracks through the blood on her face. "Not a chance.